Half the world. Billions of people. What would happen if they vanished in an instant? Are we talking about women, children, the elderly? Actually, none of those. We're just talking about men. The sudden disappearance of all men on Earth might sound like science fiction, but it would have serious consequences. About half the world's population is male. That's over 4 billion people. So what would change if they vanished instantly? How would society continue? Could humanity survive? This is what if. And here's what would happen if all men disappeared. The first 24 hours would be total chaos. The vast majority of airplane pilots, truck drivers, and emergency room doctors are men. Planes would crash, traffic would collapse, and hospitals would struggle with staff shortages. Infrastructure systems worldwide, power plants, water treatment facilities, communication networks, would be immediately compromised. The first week, survivors would try to recover. Women would quickly begin filling critical positions. Fortunately, there are already female experts in many sectors. They're just typically not in leadership positions. But in emergencies, people adapt. The biggest challenge would be finding enough experienced personnel in male-dominated industries, construction, engineering, heavy industry. In the first month, the economy would go into free fall. Half the workforce is gone, which means a massive reduction in production. Supply chains would break down. Companies could go bankrupt. However, women could fill this gap in the long term. It just requires time for retraining and reorganization. But what about reproduction? This is where it gets really interesting. Without men, natural reproduction is impossible. Right? Actually, thanks to modern technology, not quite. Frozen sperm banks can exist for years. There are millions of frozen sperm samples worldwide. This could be enough to produce at least a few more generations of humans through artificial insemination. But in the long term, science steps in. Researchers are currently working on producing sperm cells from bone marrow cells. It's theoretically possible to generate sperm from a woman's own bone marrow cells and fertilize her eggs. It's not fully successful yet, but it's possible. Or there's the technology of creating embryos from 2 female eggs. In Japan, scientists succeeded with mice. They produced offspring from 2 female mice. It hasn't been tried in humans yet, but the technology exists. Here's the truth. If all men disappeared, humanity could survive. It would be difficult, it would be chaotic, the economy could collapse, but ultimately women could adapt and rebuild society. Social changes would be interesting too. Violent crime would drop dramatically. According to statistics, the vast majority of violent crimes are committed by men. Wars would probably be less frequent. Research shows that female leaders generally start fewer wars. But some things would be lost too. Cultural diversity would decrease. Sports would change. Art, music, literature, men's contributions would no longer exist. Half of the human experience would be gone. And let's be realistic. The reverse of this scenario also applies. If all women disappeared, could men survive? Maybe, but it would be much harder. Without women, reproductive technologies are more complex, and social order would be much more turbulent. Bottom line, both genders matter. We need both for a balanced society. Men and women have different strengths, skills, and perspectives. Losing either would impoverish humanity. So what if instead of all men disappearing, all women on Earth suddenly vanished? That's another what-if story.